Hello, this is Ryu. Today we'll be discussing if it would have been possible for the Saiyans to have stopped Frieza. In this case, we'll make two assumptions to get a more objective answer. The first assumption will be that the Saiyans get a 1-hour prep time with the knowledge that Frieza is about to destroy their planet. Assume they were warned ahead of his arrival. The second assumption will be that Frieza does not get enough time to transform. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the method of determining what would happen. The first and most obvious question is how strong the average Saiyan is. How strong is the strongest Saiyan on the planet at the time? And how strong is Frieza? Well, an average Saiyan should land somewhere between the power of beginning of Z Goku and Raditz. I say this because both are considered low-class Saiyans, like most of the race, and Raditz considers himself to be exceptionally powerful among low-class Saiyans. This places the average Saiyan at a level between 416 and 1500. We also know that Nappa was one of only a handful of exceptionally strong Saiyan elites, with a power level of 4000. So it's safe to say that there were no other Saiyans with a level above 4000 on the planet at the time, aside from Bardock and King Vegeta. Because Prince Vegeta was not on Planet Vegeta at the time, the title for strongest on the planet is shared by both Bardock and King Vegeta, who have a power level of above 10,000. However, by using the Uzaru form, both Saiyans could achieve a power level of over 100,000, since the Uzaru transformation increases the Saiyan's power level by a factor of 10-fold. Now, when we look at Frieza, we know a casual first form Frieza had a power level of 530,000 while using the Supernova technique. This greatly outstrips even the strongest Saiyans in their Uzaru form, to the point where even if they teamed up, they would easily be Speed Blitz and one-shot with such a gap in power and speed, given even having double the power level of somebody is consistently more than enough to result in a Speed Blitz and one-shot in the matchup. So clearly, they're not going to defeat Frieza on a one-on-one basis, or even if a group comes in and attacks him one at a time. This, however, isn't the end of the story. Theoretically, the Saiyans had a chance to fight back while Frieza used the Supernova technique. Bardock could not stop it on his own, but if they had coordinated an attack, would have it been possible for them to push the Supernova back and defeat Frieza with a combination of his own attack and theirs? Well, let's dive into that. Now, the first thing people might be inclined to do is try to say, why don't we just see what happens when we divide 530,000 by 416, Frieza's and Goku's power level respectively, to see how many Saiyans would need to combine their power. This might seem reasonable at first, however, power levels are not linear in their power increases, they're usually actually exponential. We can see this trend when comparing Master Roshi with a level of 180 that can blow up the moon and move faster than light, to a human with a power level of 5 who can do nowhere near those things. You're not going to close the gap in speed and power by increasing a human's stats by 36 times. You can see this again with instances like Vegeta dominating Dodoria, or Goku versus the Ginyu Force members. With less than a 2 times power level difference, they can casually blitz and one-shot their opponents, which wouldn't happen if it was just a simple 2 times speed and power multiplier. So trying to divide 530,000 by 416 and saying it would take 1,265 average Saiyans using a combined attack to overpower Frieza would actually not be accurate. Instead, we'll need to go and gauge the actual raw power in joules of both parties. For Frieza, we can calculate the power of his Supernova skill by finding the mass of Planet Vegeta, and how far and fast the explosion of the planet dispersed that mass. Now, we know that Planet Vegeta is depicted as a rocky planet like Earth, and stated to have 10 times Earth gravity. This would mean that it should have a similar density and composition to Earth, and that would mean that it would be 10 times the diameter of Earth as well in order to have 10 times Earth gravity. Some people might argue that we should use the same diameter as Earth. However, that would result in a planet that's made up of a non-existent material denser than uranium, which is contradicted by what's shown in the depictions of Planet Vegeta, and therefore it's an extremely unlikely and illogical assumption. So by plugging in the 10 times gravity and the 10 times radius in order to have a similar composition to Earth, we get 5.973 times 10 to the 27 kilograms for Planet Vegeta's mass, and 127,500 kilometers for its diameter. Then we look at how long it takes the entire mass of the planet to be ejected off the screen from the explosion, which is about 1 second. By using some pixel scaling, we can estimate a low end for how far the mass traveled in 1 second, which is about 157,000 kilometers. We multiply the mass of 5.973 times 10 to the 27 kilograms by half, and multiply that by the velocity of the debris, which is 157,000 kilometers per second, and square that, and we come out with 7.36 times 10 to the 43 joules, or in other words, a large star-level energy output. Now for the Saiyans. The easiest way to do this is to say that each could at least produce the same power as somebody comparable whom we have an objective number for. In this case, the perfect candidate is the beginning of Dragon Ball Z Piccolo and his moon-destroying beam. To calculate the power of the moonbeam, we find the distance the debris of the moon is ejected and the time that it took. We can do this with a little pixel scaling, and we find that it traveled about 2,922 kilometers. This occurred in about 2.3 seconds on screen, which tells us that the mass of the moon was sent flying at about 1.23 million meters per second. We then take the known mass of the moon, being 7.35 times 10 to the 22 kilograms, divide it by 2, and multiply that by our velocity of 1.23 million meters per second, and square that to get 5.63 times 10 to the 34 joules of energy, or in other words, a large planet-level attack. So how many blasts like this would it take to overpower Frieza's supernova skill? Well, we take the 7.36 times 10 to the 43 joules from the supernova, divide it by 5.632 times 10 to the 34 joules from an average Saiyan's energy output, and we get 1.3 billion as the number of Saiyans it would take to equal Frieza's supernova. So if we assume a similar population to that of Earth, then theoretically, if they could organize over 1.3 billion Saiyans to coordinate a combined blast, they could have forced Frieza's supernova back on him and possibly defeated him before he transformed. Of course, if Frieza did enter his final form and stopped holding back, the Saiyans would no longer have a chance, even if several billion combined their attack. So yes, the answer is the Saiyans could theoretically have stopped Frieza's supernova attack and overpowered him in his first form. However, it would be a massive coordination effort, and also if Frieza does transform into his final form, they would no longer have any chance of winning. So what do you guys think? Is it realistic that the Saiyans could have coordinated this effort, or is there no way this was ever going to happen? Let me know in the comments section below.